Like many of you, I come from the alleged golden age of RPGs. I've seen a lot of people saying today's stories don't even compare to the ones from back then. Well, I'm here to prove you wrong. Here's my list of the 10 best modern JRPG stories written so far, so let's begin. Number 10. Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. The Ys games are known for having a very unique narrative. They have a greatly written lore and an interesting perspective because in the majority of them, adult Kristin is the protagonist. Jumping back and forth in the chronology of Adol's life between each release, we now see him at his darkest moments. After arriving at a prison city, he's arrested and thrown into jail. Soon after, the shady Aprilis shows up to give him an obscure power that tragically connects him to the most wanted criminals in the city. Adol then joins up with her and her merry band of warriors to uncover the evil intentions of the two factions in the city, which are at the brink of war. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was honestly never expecting to see that kind of plot in an Ys game. It left me impressed before with masterpiece stories like the one on Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, or even Memories of Celceta, but this one took the crown for me because the darker the story, the better for me. And this is a game where the cast of characters, especially Aprilis herself, slowly reveal their intrinsic past, so you end up getting some really well crafted and elaborated development from the cast. This is an absolute must play for everything, including its surprisingly great story. Number 9. Oninaki. Oninaki tells the story of Kagachi, a lonesome warrior that belongs to an organization of watchers, people that help the dead to pass on in the afterlife to reach the cycle of reincarnation. After some really sad and tragic events, Kagachi finds himself on the verge of desperation as he pursues the Night Devil, who seems to be connected to it all. Of course, he journeys to find out the breathtaking truths of the world and the lies of the organization he works for. Another amazing part of this plot is that Kagachi can equip different weapons bound to demons he recruits. Each demon has their own story, greatly written, that the player can unlock by using them in battle and regaining their lost memories. I really like how the events unfold in this game in an unexpected way. Developed by Tokyo RPG Factory, this action RPG was way darker and tragic than the company's two previous games, I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere. Two turn-based RPGs with somewhat of a melancholic feel, definitely nowhere near the darkness and hopelessness that are strongly transmitted to us through Oninaki. Number 8. Tales of Berseria. I believe this particular Tales game has one of the best stories in the series for simple reasons. It's known for being about a bunch of light-natured characters in plots that mix medieval elements with some science fiction as they develop strongly and top it all with the power of friendship. Berseria, however, is the complete opposite of that, and that's where its originality comes from. Velvet's brother is killed and sacrificed by her mentor Artorius right in front of her. The demon blight influence swallows her up in regret, turning her into a half-demon with a horrible power, the power to devour other demons with her right arm. After spending 3 long years in a dark dungeon, Artorius' right hand sets her free to put a stop to his plans and exact her ultimate revenge. As she goes along with this resentful journey, she meets other dark and shady characters, united for their own different causes. Highly interesting, all of them, including little Laffy, who strongly reminds Velvet of her long-lost brother. But honestly, Velvet steals the whole show here, and it's definitely the reason why I didn't even flinch when including this game in the list. Her sick adventure, the characters around her, and the unnerving truth about the world they live in is what compels for both a beautiful and frightening story at the same time. Number 7. Valkyria Revolution. Once again, we meet a plot based on revenge, but unlike in Berseria, one perfectly calculated. Almost unrelated to the mainline Valkyria games, this spin-off tells a different story. A group of orphans are caught up in a war, but each with a different job and position in it. Through this, their beloved caretaker was killed by the enemy nation's leader and his powerful Valkyria. Through the tragic events of war, we'll see them continuously plot their avenging strategy, while Amleth, the protagonist, joins the front lines led by the princess. This game has a bad reputation for having some gameplay issues as an action RPG. But besides a couple of upsetting boss battles, it shines through its impressive storytelling and beautiful cutscenes. You've probably noticed I'm a sucker for dark plots with some tragedy involved, connected through plot twists that can make your skin crawl, the type of events that make you question not only the characters and their actions, but maybe relate something personal of yours to them. Pretty much the type of story that makes you think. Number 6. Code Vein. I love dark, gothic, post-apocalyptic science fiction stuff. How this game seems to be also connected to the God Eater trilogy earns it some points too. At first, the overwhelming fan service made me think it wasn't going to take itself so seriously. Turns out I was completely surprised with my expectations surpassed. A group of people known as the Revenants are amongst the only survivors of a horrible catastrophe known as the Great Collapse. They need to drink human blood in order to live and fight against monsters known as the Lost. As the game progresses, we start seeing more and more Lost, we find out what they are exactly, and we are dragged into the characters' past, especially when connected to some horrible experiments and the origin of the Revenants. It just keeps getting darker and darker as you advance. I honestly think the story gets stronger by these beats where you walk around after fighting a major boss. Everything looks visually stunning and appealing already, so letting everyone's past unravel through these events was genius. I think this is a fantastic story as we barely see anything this dark in JRPGs. Definitely the best part of Code Vein. Number 5. Octopath Traveler. I wasn't expecting this game to have such an interesting story. Of course, it's told through 8 characters and their development is what made me rank it this high. Even some of the light-hearted characters, the ones that give you the impression of being silly and comedic, go through some rough events that shape their beliefs and personalities. My personal favorites were Primrose and Alphin, precisely because I was expecting something very different based on their looks and design. Primrose particularly has the darkest and most nerve-wracking emotional plot, as she's a tragic character in search for revenge. Each story is carefully written to connect with at least a few heartbreaking events most people can easily relate to, narrated in such a way through dialogue that repels boredom and welcomes originality. It's a story full of life, maturity, and realism, leaving aside the nonsensical teenage drama and the fictional power of friendship we often see in JRPGs. However brutally hard Octopath may be as a game, it's very worth playing through, if mostly for its phenomenal story. Number 4. 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. This one is more of a deeply confusing and complicated plot because it's told through 13 points of view, and you'll need to watch some events from some characters first in order to unlock the others. So the game has you jumping back and forth through different events from the past, present, and future. Despite its complexity though, it starts unraveling in such an intriguing way until it all unfolds masterfully near the end. A story about a bunch of high school students that can mysteriously summon giant mechs to fight in some kind of apocalypse. Yeah, it might not sound very original. It's the development of this really dark story advancing through the philosophical, emotional, and psychological state of every character that's marvelous. Every plot twist is completely unexpected, and as you approach the end, as you start putting all the pieces back together, it starts hitting you in an undescribable way. I wish I could expand more on what the plot is about, but I feel the more I tell, the more I spoil. And it's honestly best to let you experience the abrasive complexity of this suspenseful masterpiece. Number 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. In this latest release, we first see the point of view from 2 opposing factions. Keves and Agnus are constantly at war, but our main heroes don't really know the reason why. Almost every single living person is born from a pod, but not as babies. At the beginning, everyone looks as if they were around 10 years old, and as they grow older, they are constantly trained as soldiers in the war with a 10-year lifespan. One day, our 6 main heroes fight each other off, then a mysterious object grants them the power to fuse into creatures, therefore becoming Ouroboros. That's the moment they realize the world they live in is a lie, controlled by people not chained by the 10-year lifespan, called the consoles. Their goal is set now: to unite forces, liberate all camps oppressed by them, and set the real world order right. This is quite a dark and tragic story, highly emotional and full of psychological twists. Some events will probably leave you shocked or frozen as you understand more and more about the world and the characters' past. There is a pretty vague connection to the previous Xenoblade titles, but it's still also quite interesting to see and analyze. As stated in my recent review, this game has incredible writing, the type that easily connects with you, or at least speaks right through your heart. Number 2. Nier Automata. Because of its gorgeous fan service, Automata developed a bit of a weird reputation, up to the point where most people who haven't played it don't take the game seriously. But underneath the classy sexualization of our heroines lies an extremely dark and completely messed up science fiction story. In this post-apocalyptic world, humanity is no more, and apparently their remnants live somewhere else. Lands have been overwhelmed by machines that ran out of control. Fortunately, before they left, humans created look-alike androids to fight against these machines so humanity can eventually return one day. However, fighting beings that are starting to develop emotional intellect and feelings makes androids 2B and 9S start questioning reality. The organization they fight for hides horrible things from them as they encounter other tragic characters, such as our third protagonist A2, and they suffer through severe plot twists that also affect the player. It's a masterful story written by legendary Yoko Taro, who also penned the prequel Nier Replicant, another glorious narration. Number 1. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. Apocalypse is a direct sequel of SMT4, so it is kinda necessary to play that one first. I for one never finished it and got spoiled in Apocalypse because it follows the events of the neutral ending of its predecessor. Nevertheless, none of that stopped me from truly appreciating the superb writing in Apocalypse and enjoying it to its fullest. Nanashi is a demon hunter who is killed by demons in the middle of, well, the apocalypse itself, resurrected by a conniving demon called Dagda. Nanashi and his childhood friend Asahi are part of an underground organization of demon hunters who want to side with neither Lucifer or Merkaba, the deities opposing each other in the apocalypse. However, they end up being manipulated into liberating Krishna, a third demon deity that joins the war in pursuit of his own ends. Now, SMT is known for having multiple routes and endings, and I found that method here to be supremely interesting. There's way more story and dialogue than in most of the mainline SMT games, surpassing even the plot in SMT5 and Nocturne in my opinion. It did get some criticism from the SMT fanbase for including a more comedic cast and the power of friendship cliché, but the story always kept refocusing on its dark, philosophical and even highly psychological side until the very end. Suffice to say, this has one of the most intriguing and darkly written stories in the entire SMT universe. A few honorable mentions. Triangle Strategy, I don't have it so I can't finish it, but I remember the story being tremendously well written. Scarlet Nexus almost made it, another somewhat dark plot that's really good. And finally, the Cold Steel Saga, which is probably my best honorable mention. I think you already know why. But that's it guys, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!